Opens Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. I will announce if we adjourn into executive session for any reason, the section that we are adjourning and the law that is applicable. If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Item A is roll call. Andrew Bisco.
Here.
Sean Glovier.
Here.
Debbie Villa-Gomez.
Here.
Maria Douglas.
Here.
Felicia Moody.
Here.
Daryl Owens.
Here.
John Clark. All board members are present. Thank you. Next up is public comments on agenda items. Anybody signed up? We have one person who signed up on an agenda item. It relates to the paid sick leave for COVID. It's Andrew Makowski. Please come forward, state your name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Malkowski. I reside at 1348 Mountain View Lane. And today I'm here to speak in support of the paid COVID sick leave policy for teachers. I think that it's very important that we show our teachers and educators that we are, that we support them in this moment in time.
Go check the mic. Mic check. I hear it.
All right, no worries. Okay, so I think that it's very important in this moment in time we show our educators that we support them and that we're actually going to provide them financial backing, that if they do get sick, they need to step out of the classroom and they need to have that financial support and the backing from the school district just to do that. And I think that this is a very important policy to show our educators that we are supporting them to where we can try to minimize the COVID transmission even more. So those are my comments on that. I do want to say thank you all for taking this up and looking into this matter. And I think there is much more that we need to do. We need to take this very seriously. There are serious impacts that happened from last year's COVID. We're still digging out of that hole. And there's things such as moving to a cohort design for schools to try to minimize the other contacts that the students can occur, and to also facilitate and contact tracing. Cohort models can increase the education. You can divide the cohorts based upon educational rank and the needs that those students will need, so that we can dig out of this hole that has been created by the education loss that occurred from a virtual learning environment. On that, thank you all for y'all's time, and thank you all for y'all's consideration on these matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 4, discuss and possible action on discuss and possible action on extended paid sick leave. We all have information in our packet. Mr. G.
Okay, and Ms. King. I didn't think you were coming tonight. I was gonna be there. You surprised?
Like, I can't leave them alone talking about leave. Leave's kind of my thing, so good to see you guys. Good evening. The last board meeting, August 26th, I believe, we discussed a resolution for leave to help support all of our staff members. So that's what's before you tonight, is a resolution to extend leave to all staff members who by chance become infected with COVID-19. We feel that it is to help support them, help support employee morale, hopefully reduce turnover rates, and not create any type of financial burden if that so happens. 10 days would be extended to them if needed, for if an employee of our district tests positive for COVID-19. That way they could rest, not have to work, not have to worry, and get better and get back to work. So if it is approved tonight, it will retro back to employees at the beginning of this school year. To August 2nd was, I believe, the first day for most of our staff. Retro back, it would right now impact about 30 staff members, upwards of 240 absences. Okay, so I know staff would be very appreciative.
And you had asked at the last meeting to give numbers from last year, so she provided you with a sheet. She can go through some of those numbers, but
So I pulled some data. Last year's emergency paid sick leave is a little different than what would be implemented this year. Last year it was mandated by the Department of Labor. It came out in March of 2020 and it expired December 31st of 2020. And what that did was said you have to provide 10 days to employees that are impacted by COVID, whether it's quarantine, exposure, close contact, the individual itself, or the family member. So that's why we have so much absenteeism. You see on that third bullet, 783 approximate absence days applied to that emergency paid sick leave program for about 133 staff members. Looking at those absence days and the employees and their daily rate, that leave cost to provide them the grace of not having to utilize their own sick leave estimates approximately $182,000. Okay, substitutes out of that time, and keep in mind, not all individuals that were out that utilized the program were teachers. We had paraprofessionals, custodial, food service, administrators that did not require a substitute. So 144 of those days were picked up by a sub, and of course we didn't have a great full substitute pool. We had some subs that were not wanting to work or could not work at that time. And the cost to pay those subs for those days was about $9,522. We implemented, after that expired in December 31st, last year we implemented a resolution to extend the days to those that had already not, actually that was this year, I'm sorry. My years are all off, it's all blurring together. That was this year, back in January of 2021. We extended that time, gave the individuals 10 days up through June 30th, and that expired. So this resolution would be for the new school year for 10 days to utilize.
Just for clarification, that is 10 days total, not 10 days per incident, correct?
Correct, 10 days total. So each employee, if the need arise, would have up to 10 days applied to them where their leave balance would not be affected. We do have some employees that extend the 10 days. They're just not quite well yet. We've provided them grace. However, anything over 10 would be utilized by their own leave balance.
And also to confirm too, you're saying that these 10 days, it's only if the if the district staff member tests positive themselves. It's not like if their child gets it and they need to stay home.
Correct. So, and that is the difference between last year and this year. We had so much absenteeism because it applied to so many different areas, whereas this is going to be just specific to the employee and the employee's positive test result.
Can you, give me an estimate of trend, because I'm looking between March of 2020 and June of 21. That's
Okay.
the time frame that covered last year?
Yes.
And we had 781 absence days in that window?
Just related to emergency paid sick leave. That does not include just a random illness
Right.
day, a dentist day,
Right.
a personal day. So, yes.
Assuming basically COVID related.
COVID related, whether it was quarantine, whether they were positive, whether a family member was positive, whether, custodial staff, food service staff could not work from home. So those days were applied to them. Now, this doesn't include the work from home option that we allowed those that were able to do so.
But in the first 30 days of this year,
Yes.
we had 30 already,
Yes.
240 days used, which is about, 30% of the total absence days from
Yes.
March to June. So my question is, do you see us at a plateau in terms of that absence use, or do you see it declining? It's just where we are in the last week or two?
We talked about that earlier today. I don't know that there's any way that we can estimate or predict that.
Okay.
Last year was a totally different year than this year. We had different factors at play. Last year we had more guidance from TEA. We had virtual learning. We had the remote work option. We didn't start with students back in the classroom until the end of September, and then we had half of our student population back in class. This year it's been August 2nd. Teachers are back, staff's back. Initially we weren't wearing masks. The mitigations were different. I think bottom line, to answer your question, I pray that the absences aren't as significant as they were last year, but, there's no way to really tell, no way to know.
There really is no way for us to predict what the final cost will be.
But you have to look at the budget. I mean, so again, a third of 182 is 60,000. So we're at 60,000 perhaps, using the same number or metric in cost. And if we have 6 more months and it continues that rate, you're gonna be at 6 times that.
I understand.
I worry about, we gotta pay attention to what it's doing cost-wise. And I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm
I
just saying,
understand.
I am wondering what that number could ultimately be.
And the 182,000 takes into account not just those sick from COVID.
Right.
So this year, the resolution would just be the individuals, the employees that are positive with COVID. So the absences are hopefully are not gonna reach that level. Because there's not as many different aspects of employee absenteeism.
133 staff members, is that one time? What if they got exposed, their child was exposed? What about that? Cause it sounds like it's all different this year.
Last year was all over the place. You were home because you needed to stay home because you were experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. And until you knew you needed to stay home, during that time, you were able to utilize the emergency sick leave. So it may have been 2 days for this person, 4 days for this person, until they knew and they got the negative test result. It could be, my child can't go to school because they've been close contact exposed and I don't have daycare, so I need to stay home and be with that child. Up to 10 days they could have been granted. Or the care of a spouse member or their own unknown absence reason.
You have to realize also last year, there was no vaccine at the time when we were implementing all of this. No vaccine in play. We also were able to allow employees to work from home if they were just close contact and they were quarantined. We don't have those abilities this year. You know, we have vaccines where we offer that to our staff, but as far as the ability to work from home, that's not extended to our employees this year.
And I will say at the end of last school year, mid-April through the end of May, things had really just severely decreased, and I think maybe we had 1 or 2 positive staff members in the month of May. And so we had no indication that we would get hit so quickly, so significantly, so at the start of school this year. I have noticed, you know, just in the trends in the dashboard and the trends that I'm seeing with positive staff and students, it kind of hit one campus, it plateaued, it decreased. Then it went on to the next and plateaued, decreased. So I'm hoping we're in a downward trend. I know Tarrant County, I'm hearing, is in a downward trend with positive cases coming in, but I don't know how we can predict.
I just, as she said, there's no way for us to predict how it's gonna go.
I do know that it would be a financial burden to individuals that do not have the leave, that are out sick, and there's no leave there for them for COVID, and they're being docked. And you can have a teacher who could be earning a $300 plus daily rate, so $300 times 10 days, that's a huge impact. Of course, we would have to go through the whole family medical leave process and do paperwork on that regard to provide them another leave outlet with a
Also
reduced stocking rate.
You also would have to go, if a person needed the money, the possibility of them actually coming to work is there
Absolutely.
also.
Absolutely.
And I'd much rather they took the time to find out if they're positive or not and take care of that piece of it, and not touch everybody else that's in their class or in their work environment. So,
I would rather than test and find out
And help eliminate
which is
future
another
spread.
problem, finding a test may take you 2 days
Yep.
Yes.
to do that. So,
Speaking of mitigating, factors and actions and vaccinations, do we have any estimate or an idea how many staff are vaccinated?
That's not something we have asked our staff.
Okay, because I think I remember you saying about 90% at one meeting, but that's not really,
I think we may have talked about this at one point. Of course, we haven't asked staff members. We do ask it during the mitigation process. Close contact exposed. Are you are you vaccinated? Of course, it's a voluntary question, answer, but it would determine if you were considered close contact or not. I know from the vaccine event that we had in March, maybe February, just looking at the signups and the utilization, I would say 3/4 of our staff members signed up. Now, whether they fulfilled that and showed up and actually got the vaccine, I don't know. Now we've lost staff, we've gained staff.
And some did vaccine outside of your event,
Yes.
the school event.
Yes.
Any other questions? I don't think there's probably gonna be a lot of opposition to this, so I will entertain a motion with regard to the resolution to extend paid sick leave as presented.
I'll second.
No, I didn't make it, I'll entertain it.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution for the sick leave as presented.
Motion by Ms. Villagomez,
And I'll
Second.
second.
second by Ms. Douglas. Beat you to it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair hears no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't cry. Next item on our agenda is discuss and review the superintendent's formative goals, which is a closed session item per Texas Government Code Chapter 551.074. We will start in closed session, I think, to hammer out some of the issues and then come out and hopefully have formative goals that we will have zeroed in on and can discuss. Those are the goals that we're going to be including within the evaluation tool in February. So we are adjourning into an executive session at 7:17. We are reconvening into regular session at 9:13, following our discussion with regard to formative goals for the superintendent. There is no action to be taken on this item, and so we have completed all the items on our agenda except for item number 6, adjournment. I'll entertain a motion with regard to adjourning.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Gloria and seconded by Ms. Douglas. Is there any further discussion on this item? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
There's never an opposed or adjourned.